Derrick Lewis just finished Tallison Teixeira in what felt like an early stoppage, but it did cement himself as the all-time knockout king. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap and react to every single fight from UFC Nashville. But before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. First of all, I went 11-1 in picks. 11-1. I was heading into the main event with a perfect card, and Derrick Lewis sort of blew that for me. Frankly, it felt like a little bit of an early stoppage. Tallison Teixeira was standing up, seemed to have his wits about him, but it is what it is. I probably shouldn't have won on the Wonderboy decision, but we'll talk about each individual fight in a second. Overall, phenomenal night for the boys. I was up money. Jacob was up money. Betsam was up money. The lock of the week hit. The slam of the week hit. Jacob was live streaming this entire card. And if you've ever seen one of Jacob's live streams, for the main card, he does a full parlay. And these fight nights are 6 fights. So he did a 6-fight parlay. He did it for the main card, and he did it with your input. The premium members and the viewers of the live stream gave their input, and that parlay hit. It came down to Derrick Lewis to pay out $3,000. He called me on the live stream and said, Angelo, you're heading into a perfect card, but you're on the other side. I'm heading into a $3,000 bet. What should we do? I said hedge. Turns out I'm a pussy. He didn't need the hedge. His $3,000 bet hit, and I ended up not getting my perfect card. But 11-1 in a fight like this, betting and picking on underdogs correctly, like Jake Matthews, like Valter Walker, felt like a great night. I'm happy, a great relief. Coming out of a week off, coming into these fights and having the spectacular night that we had, we gave you a 31% ROI across the board. 31% ROI across the board. I gave you 1.64 units, but I only spent 3, so that ROI is spectacular. Jacob gave you almost 3 units. Betsam gave you almost a unit and a half. Overall, spectacular fight night with the boys. I hope you made as much money as we did. And next week is UFC 318. If you want to make some money at UFC 318, unlock every pick, every bet, and every tool for that fight card. It is all on the website right now. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10, and you unlock all of it. You unlock every bet, every pick, every tool instantly, not just for UFC 318, but you'll get UFC Abu Dhabi. You'll get the fight night with Roman Dolidze and Anthony Hernandez, and you'll get the fight night with Amir Albazi and Tatsuro Taira. That's WeWantPicks.com. It's freaking $10. Support the boys. And in return, you get the greatest offering in this space, period. End of story. Let's go ahead and talk about this fight card. We opened it up with sort of a dicey type fight. We had Fatima Kline beat Melissa Martinez. She knocked out Melissa Martinez in the 3rd round. So if you didn't watch the fights and you just saw, oh, Fatima Kline wins by knockout. I knew it. She was a My Team 4-100 favorite. Massive favorite, minus 1,400, of course. That fight was kind of close, and you could argue it was 1-1 going into the 3rd. Fatima Kline's takedowns were not there. She didn't attempt a ton, but the one she didn't work. Her takedowns are kind of ass, if we're being honest. So Fatima Kline gets no takedowns, relied on the striking, and luckily the striking was there, so she got it done with the striking. So Fatima Kline ended up winning by finish, and Jacob cashed big on that because Fatima Kline inside the distance was a solid plus money bet. The reality is Fatima Kline will be good. And I'm actually glad that she won by knockout because Melissa Martinez is busy. Melissa Martinez is tough, and we saw all of those skills. Fatima Kline needs to work on the takedowns, though, because, yes, she won this fight on her feet, and that's not something most people expected her to do. She's got the build for it, long, lanky. What was impressive about this head kick is she did it in close range. She didn't get this head kick from far away, and it's like, oh, wow, she's so tall. She got that head kick very close, was just able to turn her hip over. So Fatima Kline got it done, but if that went to the scorecard, she probably would have won a decision. I don't think it was that close, but she didn't look minus 1,400 leading up to that. So good for Fatima Kline. She's definitely got some things to clean up. Melissa Martinez, early in her career, there's more to come. Mike Davis came back and looked like his number, minus 600. So it started very dominant, then it got very sketchy, and then it ended very dominant again. Mike Davis came out, wrestle-heavy game plan immediately took Mitch Ramirez down. This picture of him elevating Mitch Ramirez and dumping him was like in the first couple of minutes of this fight. It might not even have been a minute. It might have been the first minute of the fight. He shot immediately, and it was very clear the wrestling was on the Mike Davis side. Very dominant takedown, picked him up, slammed him twice. He actually shot a takedown, got it. There was a scramble. They stood back up. They didn't count that first takedown. Kind of annoying. I needed 2 takedowns. Then he gets the second one here, which is a full elevation. And he basically had Mitch Ramirez's back the rest of the fight. Alternated between different submissions. Mitch was able to survive. Second round comes around. Mike Davis is breathing heavy, and Mike Davis got hit, and he got hit hard. And thank God he has a chin, because in that second round, it felt very much like Mitch Ramirez was about to knock him out. Like that is what it looked like watching live. But Mike Davis was able to survive, ate a couple of big shots, and then just ended up being the faster, more powerful striker, took over, ended up winning this fight. So Mike Davis was worth his minus 600 price tag at the end of the day. He went on about, I'm back and I'm healthy and this is what people wanted from me, and they got it. And yes, overall, looked good. But if I'm going to give you a little bit of perspective, he beat Mitch Ramirez, who is winless in the UFC, albeit through a tough road. And he looked very tired in that second round. But he looked great. Takedown was great. Striking was great. Overall, great performance from Mike Davis, but we all knew how good he was. I also knew how good Valter Walker was. And I have filmed this video 3 times, actually 4 times if you count the DraftKings video. So obviously we had a week off between UFC 317 and UFC Nashville. So I filmed the full card breakdown. I do it again on fight week. Then I do it with Jacob. And then I do the full card DraftKings breakdown. I pick every fight, but I talk about DraftKings fantasy and who you should or should not have in some of your fantasy lineups. Every single one of those videos, I picked Valter Walker. And in every single one of those videos, I said, I don't understand why he's the dog. I don't understand why he continues to have widened odds here. And then Valter Walker shot a takedown in the first 2 seconds of this fight. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's why he's a dog. It was probably the most atrocious takedown attempt I have ever seen in MMA. And listen, I had a bet on Valter Walker. The bet cashed. Valter won by heel hook, his 3rd heel hook submission in a row. It's the only time that's ever happened in the UFC. This guy's setting records. He made it look easy with how fast he did this. But if you go back and you watch that first Valter Walker takedown attempt, I promise you it is the worst takedown attempt you have ever seen in your entire life. It was atrocious. I have never seen a worse takedown attempt before, ever. And I coached children for a very long time. That was bad. Story here is Valter won. I expected him to win. I picked him to win. I bet on him to win. He did so by stoppage and in somewhat dominant fashion. He's a future fucking fade. Valter Walker is a future fade. That was the takedown attempt. If he was fighting somebody with better takedown defense, I don't know how it's going to go. And actually, I should back up a little bit because he didn't even take down Kennedy Njokuani. He shot a takedown from about 300 yards out. It was atrocious. Then he just pushed Kennedy against the cage, and then he fell to his back and grabbed the heel and got the heel hook. So that was on purpose. At the time, it looked like he slipped off. People said, oh, he slipped, he fell. DC mentioned that. It looked like he pulled guard. I was like, what a pussy. Oh, it was just a setup for the heel hook, and he got the heel hook. So Valter Walker got it done. He is streaking right now, and you know what? I'm going to continue to root for him because the heavyweight division needs some juice. It's the weakest it has ever been. But he needs better takedowns. If you took Valter Walker and gave him Jalton Almeida's takedowns, now we're talking. But that was one of the worst takedown attempts I've ever seen. Glad he won, got paid. Hopefully you did too. Then we had a pretty straightforward fight. This is exactly what we expected it to be. We had the younger fighter beat the older fighter. I mean, that was it. The younger fighter beat the older fighter. That was it. Eduarda Moura won the first round just by being younger, faster. Won the second round by being younger, faster. And then was winning the second round by being younger, faster. And then in a fairy tale ending, almost, Lauren Murphy jumps guillotine and it is like tight. I was biting my nails. I thought for sure Lauren Murphy was going to get that guillotine finish. She didn't, thankfully. And I was one step closer to picking a perfect card here. But this is what we expected it to be. Eduarda Moura was a minus 600 favorite, and people were like, oh my God, betting on a minus 600 favorite woman, that's a trouble. Unfortunately, those are the odds that we have to deal with. That's the unfortunate reality. We had to deal with Eduarda Moura being a minus 600 favorite. And if you wanted to save some money and do Eduarda Moura by decision, it was like minus 400. It wasn't much better. And that's the reality of MMA right now. Some of the odds are kind of fucked, but it cashed. I had a 4-leg parlay, which is not something Big Ange does. Eduarda was in it. It started with Mike Davis. The next leg was Eduarda Moura, and we were well on our way to cashing some bets here. And Lauren Murphy doesn't matter at this point. She's full-blown retired, and her retirement speech was funny because she thanked herself for grinding and putting in the time and the effort. And a lot of people don't do that. And good for her. That was probably one of the most real retirement speeches of all time, because you know what? If you don't praise yourself, there's not a lot of people that are going to do it for you, especially nowadays. In this era, listen, I was almost about to pick a perfect card. I was this close to picking a perfect card. And when Derrick Lewis was messing with his eye in the main event, I was like, holy shit, I just picked a perfect card. I still would have gotten hate. 100%. I still, on this video, I would have been bragging about a perfect card, and somebody would be like, yeah, but you said, because that's the life we live now, right? Nobody's happy. It's cool to pretend the UFC sucks. It's cool to trash every event and just go on, and the negative headlines gets more views than the positive ones. That's the world we live in. So if Lauren Murphy didn't go out there and thank herself for what she's done, not only for her, but this sport, nobody else was going to, because that's the world we live in. It was one of the most real retirement speeches I've heard. She's like, I want to thank myself for having the guts to get up every day and go train and put in the work. And I want to thank myself for being a pioneer for other women in this sport and show them. And she's 100% correct across the board. She fought for a title, didn't get it, didn't really accomplish anything major, but everything she said was 100% correct. She's 41 years old, just went toe-to-toe with somebody 15 years younger than her, almost won the fight by guillotine, and just showed people, work your ass off, don't be lazy, and don't fucking listen to strangers, and you'll be fine. Good for Lauren Murphy. Eduarda Moura, future fate for sure. If you can't beat a 41-year-old handily, and you're almost getting submitted in the third round, what the fuck are we doing? She got taken down pretty easily, too. Lauren Murphy took her down very quickly. Speaking of quick, Jake Matthews fucked me. I only missed one bet. Every single bet I put on the board, they all cashed. One was refunded. We'll talk about that. And then one missed. And I only missed, it was a parlay, and I missed half of it. And that's because Jake Matthews got a submission in the first round. I had over 1.5 on this fight. And I was so confident in that I put in the safety. And not only was I confident in it, as was the general public, because that line eventually on some sports books got moved to 2.5. And my logic going into that was Jake Matthews is a very good fighter. I'm picking Jake to win. I am putting a money line bet on him to win. But he's also not the most dangerous guy in the world. Yeah, he finished Darius Flowers, but that guy fucking sucks. Chidi's better than that. No, he's not. Chidi and Njokuani, first of all, missed weight, so fuck you. Second of all, came out here, threw a couple of lazy leg kicks, wild scramble, Jake climbs his back, gets it done. That was the fight. And good for Jake Matthews. He was Jacob's underdog lock of the week. I had a bet on him at plus 125. So I'm very happy. I'm glad it all went down. I wish that would have happened later in the second round, but I'm glad it went down the way that it did. The reads were absolutely on point here, and there's not a lot to break down here. Jake Matthews created a scramble. Jake Matthews was the better grappler, so Jake Matthews won that fight in the scramble. Chidi missed weight and deserved to lose. At this level, missing weight, you deserve to lose. The worst part is it was just a shitty scramble and he got caught, but that's his problem, not ours. Then we had the featured prelim of the evening. I'll tell you right now, this was not a split decision. I don't care what those scorecards said. This should not have been a split decision. This should have been a very clear, at least, at minimum, 2-1 for Chris Curtis. I don't know how any judge could have given Max 2 of the 3 rounds. How? Which 2 rounds did he win? You could argue the first, right? You can make an argument for the first because not a lot happened. The first round was a very typical Chris Curtis first round. Didn't really do too much. Didn't let his hands go. He was headbutt. He was kicked in the dick. So that first round was already a little dicey. So maybe you want to give it to Max because Max was busy. He was moving. He headbutted him, which created a cut. He got a nice, beautiful up the middle kick to the dick. So maybe you want to give the first round to Max. Fine. But I don't know how you give him the second or the third because after that first round, Chris turned on the volume. It was very clear that Chris's punches were far more impactful. Max was wincing, turning, reacting to the strikes, where Chris Curtis was doing what Chris Curtis does. That third round, Chris Curtis took down Max. And it was more of a Muay Thai trip than a full-blown takedown, but he got it done. Max shot, I think, at least one takedown, maybe two. They were defended very, very easily from Chris Curtis. So overall, pretty straightforward Chris Curtis fight. I thought it was at least, at minimum, 29-28, 2 out of 3 rounds. That's not really how the judges saw it, but I think we know judges are idiots, and this is what judges do. The pick was Chris Curtis. The pick was correct. I'm looking forward to see what he looks like at 170 pounds. I think this was a great test at 170. I don't think we can throw him in there just yet with the top 15 of the division. Obviously, he had that success at middleweight, but it's entirely new weight class, new people. Everything's a little different down here. So, Chris Curtis is a little older. Let's just have some fun with him. Let's get him some exciting fights, and let's see where we go. Then we had another underdog pick from Big Ange. I picked Tokkos, and I was correct. Was it dicey? Yeah, it got a little dicey, but I was correct. And this was an interesting fight because Junior Tafa, in his last fight, was fat and sucked. In this fight, he was not fat, but still sucked. The striking was good. The striking was on point, but we knew that. Junior Tafa was a professional kickboxer, so of course the striking was good. Of course, how could he be a professional kickboxer without good striking? And we saw some of the striking here. Tuco was able to win this fight because he got some takedowns, because Junior's takedown defense sucks, and because Tuco is tough as shit. In that second round, he ate a couple of big shots. And I was like, shit, the tide's turning. Junior's going to finish him. And there was a point where Tuco got rocked and was hanging on for dear life, and Junior did the right thing. Separated, stood up. The referee's like, no, you got to get up. This is a fist fight. You got to get up and fight, Tuco. Tuco got up, got a takedown, dragged him to the ground, and that ultimately led to the submission. And it was just a perfect reminder that this is MMA, mixed martial arts. And yeah, both of these guys are pretty one-dimensional, but the fact that there was multiple martial arts in that cage, well, ultimately grappling won. And it typically will. If you have somebody who can't defend takedowns, that's going to be a problem. So Junior Tafa probably cut, and if he's not cut, he should be. Like, what are we doing? Are you great? You lost the weight. You transformed your body. Go learn some fucking takedown defense. It's crazy. Go. Tuco's not even like a nasty wrestler. He's just really tough, and will continue moving forward. Then we had Vitor Petrino submit Austen Lane. This was a very straightforward fight as well. Vitor Petrino was going up in weight to heavyweight. And I got to be honest, I picked him. I had him in that 4-leg parlay. That 4-leg parlay was Morgan Charriere, who's next, Vitor Petrino, Eduarda Moura, and Mike Davis. And it was plus money, but I had to get 4 legs in that to get it to plus money. And in this fight, things got a little, they were very straightforward. No issues. Vitor Petrino got it done. But things got a little hairy leading into this fight for me specifically, because I picked Vitor. And I picked him because I said, listen, he got knocked out in his last fight, but he was winning that fight. He got submitted in the fight before that, but that was sort of a flash type situation where he shot a takedown he shouldn't have. And both of those losses are to very established people in this weight class that were highly ranked. So those are credible losses. I don't know why he's going up to heavyweight. I don't think he should be. And then I see that he went up to heavyweight, and then I see him weigh in, and then I see him hydrated, and I'm like, he's kind of fat. This isn't like a Vitor Petrino who actively chose to go up to heavyweight, and a Vitor Petrino who actively was working on, putting on some weight and doing all the right things. No, this is a dude who just said, I don't want to cut weight anymore. And that's what it looked like. A little bit of love handle situation. 6-pack was faded. But he came out here, he caught a kick, got it to the ground. As soon as it got to the ground, he looked phenomenal. And Vitor Petrino in the past hasn't looked this good on the ground before. We've seen him on the ground. We've seen him try to work through positions. But in this fight, he looked like a clean black belt. As soon as it got to the ground, it was like mount, head and arm, rear naked, like threatening choke after choke after choke and moving fluidly. So Vitor looked great on the ground. This doesn't mean anything. This means literally nothing. Oh, you beat the most beatable guy in the division? I don't know what that means for you. Then we had Morgan Charriere taking on Nate Landwehr. We went into this worried about the French. The French are not fighters. The French are not tough. We were worried. Is this going to be another Frenchman as a huge favorite letting everybody down? And it almost was. It almost was. That second round was a very typical French fight. He was just getting outdogged by the dog. Morgan in that it was getting outdogged by the dog. The good news is Morgan was always the better fighter. And it was clear he was the better fighter. A little faster, hit a little harder, a little more fluid, a little cleaner, a little slicker. But he was getting outdogged by the dog in that second round. And that's what Nate Landwehr is. He's just a dog. He's not very good at any individual thing, but he's just tough and he's determined and he won't quit. Morgan was a bit frustrating, but he ended up getting it done. He was the better fighter. Luckily for us, Morgan is not that slump turd Kevin just said. He's not that absolute boring loser Umar Sy. Morgan Charriere's got some actual fight in him, and we saw that. He rallied. He ended up getting it done. He finished it late in the third. I think Nate Landwehr's a guy you keep around. You give him some exciting fights. Morgan's a guy that has potential. He's still young. He's still young. There's some time to build him. There is some potential there. So I think we give Morgan a couple of tough fights. Let's see where we go. Obviously, he lost his fight right before this, so it's not like he's on this unbeatable streak. But he's been fighting a pretty high caliber level of fighter, and for the most part, he's showing up even when he loses. Then we had Steve Garcia, Calvin Kattar. Couple of takeaways here. First of all, I said I'm going to pick Steve Garcia. So at this point, I am still well on my way to picking a perfect card. I've gotten every single pick correct up until this point. I picked Steve to win, and I said I'm going to go with youth here, but Calvin's a very good, clean striker, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out how good Steve Garcia is, because Calvin is not Kyle Nelson or the rest of these bums that Steve Garcia has been finishing. And honestly, he kind of was like the rest of those bums, just a little tougher. And age is a bitch, because Calvin was slowing down. And I don't necessarily mean like as this specific fight went on, he was slowing down, but just in general, Calvin in this fight is not who he was when he beat Giga Chikadze, for example. When he beat Giga Chikadze, he was fast, he was clean, he was accurate, the kicks didn't matter, he let his hands go, he stayed in his face, and he was busy. In this fight, he was a little bit of a step behind. He didn't like the power. I think he was also getting frustrated. Steve Garcia, we haven't seen a lot of him recently because he's been winning fights so quickly by finish. First of all, he's tremendous for this weight class. Steve Garcia is very big at 145 pounds. Second of all, Steve Garcia has really long limbs. He's got a very interesting build with his short torso and long limbs. And he's got this awkward, lurchy style where he like jumps into things weird. It's like half Corey Sandhagen, half like weird creature from the woods. And I think that awkward style is what was giving Calvin a little bit of trouble. So Calvin was basically a step behind the whole time. He just couldn't keep up, couldn't really find his rhythm because Steve's rhythm was so bizarre. Steve hit very hard, and Steve was just a little bit quicker. And even if he wasn't literally a little faster, it just came from an angle that Calvin didn't expect. So I'm glad Steve won. If Steve lost, it doesn't help anybody. Who gives a shit about a 38-year-old Calvin winning? So Steve winning is important. It is now a 6-fight win streak, 5 of them by knockout. This is important for the division. So I don't know what we do next for Steve. He made a bunch of call-outs, but it was a good win for him, a quality win. I don't think Calvin retired, right? I don't think I missed that. So I don't know what you do with him. This guy hasn't won a fight since pre-mask era. Then we had the co-main event of the evening, and this was a lot closer than a lot of people thought. This fight went exactly as I said it would. What did I say would happen? Wonder Boy would give Gabriel a little bit of trouble striking, so Gabriel would get frustrated and immediately turn to wrestling. That's exactly what we got. Gabriel wrestled early, had success early. Picked up Wonder Boy, took him down, had his back, he slid off a little bit. He had early grappling success, but then the problem is he wrestled first. Got a little bit tired. Wrestling's exhausting. Wonder Boy found his footing. He's long as hell. He's got that great karate style, very frustrating style to deal with. So then Gabriel's takedowns after that point were desperate. So he would get to a leg and Wonderboy would stuff the head. Gabriel would get up, hold his back against the cage. They would break. And it was just a lot of that. There was only one real meaningful point in this fight. And that's when Wonderboy cracked Gabriel. Gabriel was on chicken legs for a little bit, round ends. That's the second round. So Gabriel wins the first round because of the grappling. In the second round, pretty close. Then he eats a big one. He's on his chicken legs. He's wobbling around. He's rocked. So that round goes to Wonderboy. We go to the third round. The third round felt very, very close. And this is where an older commission or a commission that doesn't get a lot of high-level fights can fuck you. So I picked Gabriel. We had a couple of bets on Gabriel, so it was very important that Gabriel won this fight. And he did win this fight. But if this was in Las Vegas, he would not have won this fight. If this was in Las Vegas, those judges would have given this fight to Wonderboy because Wonderboy was actively trying to finish. Wonderboy was throwing kicks. Wonderboy was throwing punches, and Gabriel was quite literally just holding on, keeping him against the cage, trying to remove any striking distance whatsoever. So it very much felt like Wonderboy was going to win a decision. This was a split. It should have been a split, meaning it was so close that not everybody agreed. I personally would have stored it for Wonderboy Thompson, but, you know, that's the new Ange. The old Ange cares more about wrestling than anything. The old Ange would have been like, hey, it was a close fight, and one of them got a lot of cage control, so I'm going to go with that guy. But the new scoring criteria, this new world we live in, it's about you trying to do damage and you actually doing damage and not really about effective grappling. So it probably would have been scored for Wonderboy in almost any other commission, but I wouldn't call this a robbery either. Anybody saying I got robbed, you don't know what that word means. Wonderboy looked good. He's 42 years old. I don't even know if he should retire. I honestly don't know if he should retire. He looked good against the young killer. Gabriel Bonfim, I wouldn't even call him a future fade. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, yeah. Wonderboy is a very, very tough guy to deal with. Joaquin Buckley finished Wonderboy in the third round, but he was losing that fight up until this point. Gabriel had more success against Wonderboy than Buckley did. Buckley just found it at the very last second. Overall, you know, this was a tense fight. It was tied going into the third. Bonfim winning, similar narrative to Calvin. Like, Wonderboy winning is great for the fans, but it doesn't do anything for, like, the division itself. And then we had the main event of the evening. I'm going to spend longer talking about it than what actually happened. But I got to be honest, I don't know what the fuck happened. Teixeira comes out, lands a nice little combination, hits Derrick right in the eye. Derrick's like covered his eye. And honestly, once the fight was over and they showed it a little slower, it looked like a thumb, not like an eye poke thumb, but like, you know, it threw the punch and the knuckle of the thumb hit the eye. Derrick didn't complain about it. He messed with it a little bit. And then Derrick just starts bombing. One of them connects. Tallison honestly kind of eats it, but you can tell Derrick was like, oh shit, I just hit him hard. So Derrick blitzes forward, throws a couple more big ones. Tallison falls down. Derrick jumps on top of him, hitting him. Tallison climbs, literally hands in the fence, climbs his way up. Shouldn't have done it. Should have been a foul. The ref should have stopped it right then and there, but I understand letting it go because you might help him out if you stop it, so whatever. And as he's climbing up, he's getting hit. Derrick Lewis is hitting him, but he's still like on his feet, standing, turning around, about to face him, and the referee calls it. I don't know what the hell that was. I really don't know what that was. It does not feel like that was an appropriate stoppage. It felt a little early because as soon as it's called, Tallison is literally pushing the referee's face away. Like he still has his wits about him. He's pushing his face away, getting ready to, he didn't even know the fight was, he was like, what the fuck? Wait, this is over? So I'm fine with it. Derrick Lewis landed the big shots, dropped them, had him in a world of hurt. It is what it is. It did prevent me from a perfect card. I had no bet on this fight whatsoever, and I said you shouldn't either. So it didn't win or lose me any money. Perfect card would have been nice to brag about, though. So Derrick Lewis ends up getting it done. Little questionable. I'm curious what you guys think. Tallison's a young dude, 8-0, and we said he's too young for a main event like this. A lot of things could happen here. I thought this fight was going to go longer. I thought it'd be more of a staring contest, but obviously that was wrong. But I'm curious what you guys thought if this was an early stoppage, if it was not. Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about that. And guys, if you want $50, we'll send you $50. We have affiliate partners. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have a few different sportsbook partners. Click on any one of the sportsbook links, sign up, make a deposit. They'll pay me a commission. I'll slice off $50 and I'll give it right to you. Very simple, very straightforward, very easy way to get $50 from the boys. If you're not a premium member, become one. The very first slide in this video is about our bets and how well the bets did. And premium membership will unlock every bet for every card, but also give you access to a slew of tools. It's not just bets. We have tools like a fight simulator that simulates fights 100,000 times, gives you all the outputs. It can now even build DraftKings Fantasy and FanDuel Fantasy lineups for you. We have a tape index for those of you who like to do your own tape study, watch the fights with your own eyes and deep dive. We have an optimizer that builds DraftKings fantasy lineups and now FanDuel fantasy lineups as well. And you can unlock every pick, every bet, every tool for every one of these cards. It's $10 for 4 cards. You get UFC 318, UFC Saudi Arabia, and the 2 fight nights after that. It's WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member at the top.